Well, good afternoon, just about, for 59 seconds till this afternoon. And welcome to the Research Town Hall. My name is Tom Shanley. I am the director of MICHR, and I'm happy to welcome you all to this Research Town Hall meeting. We're joined by our Senior Dean of Research, Steve Kunkel, in the Office of Research in the Medical School. And today we are demonstrating to you some of the tools and challenges, tools to face the challenges that we have in implementing and executing clinical and translational research. As you all know, one of the biggest challenges that we have and the imperative that we have in doing clinical research is to ensure that we actually get subjects enrolled into the studies that we're executing. And we know those of you that work on the front line every day of doing clinical research recognize the challenges that are associated with this, and what we're hoping to do is continue to arm you all with tools that will assist you in being able to do this effectively. To run through the agenda today, I'm going to briefly just remind you about the research route map that's on the Office of Research website. And then you'll get a recruitment program overview from our program director within the Michigan Institute of Clinical and Health Research, Joan Kellenberg. Then we'll have Jessica Durkin and Caleb Smith from the Office of Research who will share with you some of our information about recruitment accrual data. And then we'll finish up with a demonstration. You know, our registry for subject volunteering has fallen under the title of umclinicalstudies.org. It's in a current initial version, and we're going to roll out a revised and significantly improved version today for you to demo and see how this tool can significantly help you identify subjects for your studies. More importantly, maybe, how your patients can identify study opportunities for themselves. And in the new version, how patients can actually talk among themselves as communities and really identify resources and opportunities for them. So I think you'll really be impressed by the new tool that's been developed under a tremendous team, which you'll get introduced to by Joan later. So I want to briefly remind you all about this tool opening up on the Office of Research website, and it allows you, again, to navigate through the variety of resources that you have accessible to you through the medical school and a number of programs within the medical school. This is a very interactive map for those of you that haven't used it. So, for example, if you're interested in training opportunities, when you click on it, it takes you immediately to a number of opportunities through a variety of professional stages and variety of interests that you could access from that standpoint. We've tried to leverage this tool to be very comprehensive. There's a number of interaction areas. For example, if you go to proposal concept, it takes you right to some of the tools and facilities that can help you compose your applications, compose your proposals, and take you through the right route mapping. Clearly, one of the important highlights from that aspect is if you are interested in looking at subject recruitment, and now since I don't have my reading glasses, if you go to participant recruitment needs and you identify those, that takes you to the MICHR website and to the recruitment program that I'm going to turn the podium over to Joan to have her describe the many resources that we have available at MICHR to do that. So, Joan?
Tom.
And there, and there.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks very much for coming today. We really are delighted with the turnout. What I'd like to do is just begin with a brief overview of the research recruitment program. Our primary goal really is to promote upstream thinking by research study teams with regard to recruitment at the time of proposal development and not farther downstream. We would really like to encourage all research study teams to use Clinical Studies as one of their primary recruitment tools. And the way to do that is to indicate your intention by selecting checkbox 8-2.6 in your eResearch application. Another primary goal for us is to facilitate communication between research study teams and study participants, primarily through Clinical Studies. and to educate and engage the community on clinical and health research opportunities. With regard to study team services, we offer a broad array of services, one of which is feasibility assessments and cohort identification of health system patients. We also offer support for proposal development, budgeting, language for IRB applications, and letters of support. And you are welcome to contact us directly for one-on-one consultations for these services. We also encourage all research faculty and staff to attend our MICHR workshops that include research, recruitment and retention content. And finally, we have a research recruitment toolkit online for your convenience that includes guidance on developing recruitment materials and communication strategies. Finally, we focus broadly on the community. We define community broadly to include not only Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, but also the Flint, Dearborn, Detroit communities and beyond. We do this by educational outreach about clinical and health research opportunities. We work hard to develop collaborations with our community partners. We build trust with underrepresented minority communities and opportunities for their participation in research. And we work to reduce any potential barriers, perceived or otherwise, to study participation. And finally, we are always available to answer any inquiries about clinical studies by both research teams or study participants. Dr. Larry Ahn is our recruitment program faculty lead, and our program staff include Leah Franco-McKendrick, Anita Johnson, Marie Watkins, and Christina Lohr, and I'd ask them to stand for recognition. And I'd now like to introduce Jessica Durkin and Caleb Smith from the Office of Research.
Is that Command Tab? There we go. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Jessica Durkin. This is Caleb Smith. We wanted to talk to you today about some of the work we've been doing around understanding low and non-occurring IRB studies. So this is very early work, and so we're titled it Preliminary Findings because we still have a little bit more work to do. So in working with Caleb, he has a joint appointment with the eResearch ITS team on main campus and with the Office of Research, and so he has been digging down deep into the data in eResearch regulatory management to help us understand where our studies stand with enrolling patients. So we did a large data pull from eResearch regulatory management system for all the HUMEs, all the studies from the start of time in eResearch. So it includes IRBMED studies, IRB HSBS studies, IRB Flint, and as well as Dearborn. We excluded some studies based on the state because they wouldn't be applicable, such as withdrawn or exempt studies. And the studies that we did include are those with the state of approved, expired, terminated, expired with continuing review and process, and exempt approved transitional studies. So how did we define low or non-accruing studies? So in eResearch regulatory management, every study has to put in a statistical N of the overall study, and then they also have to include a University of Michigan target. And so that's the target enrollment for just the U of M site. There's a total enrollment that is entered once per year at the scheduled continuing review, and that's entered by the study team. And so our definition for low and non-accruing is if the total enrollment was 0 or less than 10% of either the total target or the U of M target, so that we could be as comprehensive as possible. So one of the biggest thing I think we learned in this is that there's challenges with the data that's in eResearch. It's the enrollment is only updated once per year by the study team, and the whole eResearch system was created as a workflow process for regulatory approvals, not as a source of truth for tracking enrollment. So that was our first challenge. Also, IRBMED and IRB-HSBS handled the conversion to e-research differently. IRBMED had kind of a start everything going forward process, and IRB-HSBS actually translated and converted some studies into the new system. So there's a lot of variables there. In addition, this entire system has undergone 2 revisions, and both of them affected the fields that we used for this work. So the point of this graph isn't for you to read it. It's more to make the case that e-research is very, very complex and very, very messy. So on the left side are all the possible states that we could look at that we pulled in e-research. And the blue lines are the states that we followed through for this process in order to capture and understand enrollment. So this area on the far right is actually the area that we're going to talk about. So before, when we talked about the states that we included, there was just over 14,000 approved, terminated, expired, all those different states that we included. And from there, we then had to start extracting pieces of information that would complicate. So the first one that we pulled out was this one, which is incomplete data. So incomplete data had lots of different meanings. I'll let you explain.
Yeah. So it's my turn now. Incomplete data could have been a number of things, and really what that meant was studies that had no total enrollment or no statistical N listed, also studies that had no total recruitment. So there are a number of possible reasons that this could have happened. One is that it's a legacy study, right, and the data simply wasn't converted. Other times, the study is marked as a standard application when in fact it's a secondary analysis. Secondary use analysis does not require a statistical N. So we discarded those, and in this grouping we just call it all incomplete data. I need either the statistical N and the total enrollment numbers to do my calculations to find enrollment percentages. So without those calculations, we had to discard them from our analysis.
Okay. So what we did focus on for this work was we pulled out anything that had a total enrollment of larger than 10%. And so we actually ended up looking at only 1,261 studies, and of those we surveyed 1,189 of them. So of those surveyed, we had a response rate of 34%. 373 people responded to us. 98 of them had invalid emails, and 17 had no response. And so along the bottom, it's broken into how people responded to the survey based on what type their application was in, if it was approved, if it was terminated, if it had been since expired, etc. So the most important part was the e-research data is messy and confusing and complex and complicated. But then where we get value from this was that we actually went out and asked people, why did their study not enroll any patients? Or why did it enroll less than 10%? So
as you can imagine, we got a variety of responses, and I had to group them by thematic, really, by themes. So I'm going to explain briefly these top 4. These were by a large margin the most common responses, the most common impacts to low accruing studies. One was target does not apply. So as I said before, those would be secondary analysis that, yeah, there we go, thank you. Studies don't require the statistical N. It's an open enrollment. They take as many as they can get. Or the study at some point after initial approval decided that they did not need to do experiments with human subjects. They wanted to use existing experimental data, for instance. The study could have been a repository, recruitment database, or a patient registry. It was a retrospective analysis or chart review, and these are the various different reasons that the target enrollment or the statistical N did not apply. So those skewed our results a little bit. The next thematic group was systemic administration issues, and these things would typically be reported in a manner of it took so long to get IRB approval that competitive enrollment was closed before I was able to start. The same response was given for the contracting process, or an amendment is required before any kind of enrollment can begin because the methodology of the study may have changed since its original conception. And then some administrative burden issues such as the rollout of...
Yeah. So some of you have filled out a study before. Sometimes the IRB would tell you just put in 99999 or you've learned to put that in so that you don't have to go back later and amendment, because that can be sometimes challenging to go back later and amend your enrollment. So that was a common answer that we received as well.
Another large group was the lack of resources. So by far the biggest response in this grouping was lack of study coordinator or research nurse to help with enrollment. We had a number of responses where the clinical practitioners were both on board, but they had no one to recruit actual patients for them.
Or just sometimes just lack of time, I think was a common one, right? So the investigators in the middle of doing clinics and they can't get away to go and enroll a patient. That was a common one we heard as well. And the last one was around subject population issues. So just the lack of subjects, too few. The inclusion criteria was too narrow. They had a higher than expected refusal rate. So these were some of the ones, and like Caleb said, behind this is a lot more detail, but we were trying to summarize this up at a very high level for you today. So as I said, it's preliminary. We have a lot of next steps. One is just around additional analysis of the data. We want to look at, is there any trends with regard to sponsor type? So if there's no funding for the study, does that one tend to have lower non-accruing? Also, who initiated the study? Was it a graduate student who started it and then upped and left and went on to something else? It was an investigator or postdoc. So maybe that can tell us something. So we don't know until we actually start looking at the data. And then in addition, start working with Joan and her recruitment program to develop strategies. Now that we can see what some of the biggest complaints are and the biggest issues, now what can we do to actually put some strategies in place to help improve the accrual? So the last slide I wanted to show you was one of the early preliminary stuff that we did pull out. And so this is very specific to IRBMED studies. So the blue plus the gray bar is actually the total for the whole line, and the blue is just the studies that are approved or active currently. So we've broken it down by 10%. So out of all the studies in IRBMED, the large portion on the bottom, 1,014, are the ones that accrued low or non-accruing. 440 of them right now are active. But all the way up to, there's a group of 236 who've actually accrued more than 100% in their study. So we wanted to break it down to actually see a current state of how things look right now. And so if any of you were contacted by Caleb, some random email that said your study didn't accrue and why, if you'd like to respond to help increase the numbers of our survey results, I would encourage you to either email ummsresearch@umich or Caleb directly at calebs@umich. And that's it. So, oh boy. Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
So, hello everyone. Boy, this room looks different from here. I've always been up there, but it's different now. Okay. You've met Joan, and I just wanted to tell you, I don't think most of you know, that she just started here in December, and her work since then in sort of getting the roadblocks away from us getting this application out has been pretty amazing. So thank you so much, Joan. And before I show you more of it, I also want to thank Tom and Terry, and of course Shelley and Jamie for all the amazing support that we've received so far. Right, so my name is Alap Doshi. I am a human-centered designer, which is just a fancy way of saying that I design keeping people in mind. And that's what my primary interest is, people. And I've been looking at this problem of how to improve recruitment rates at UFM, especially for a long time now. And I have to say, I don't think Molly's in here today, but I was really inspired by Molly Dwyer-White, who was the previous recruitment manager, to sort of take up this problem from a design sense, from a people sense, and sort of see what we could come up with. So she's really been amazing to sort of get this started too. So how many of you know of clinicalstudies.org? Quite a few. How many have used it as a study team to post your studies? Right. How many of you have participated as a volunteer? Very nice. So I know some of you don't know what UM Clinical Studies is, so just quickly, it's really a website that lets volunteers sign up to be a part of the registry, and it lets study teams sort of post digital study postings on it. What it then does is it tries to match studies to participants and provides participants a list of studies they could be eligible for, while providing study teams a list of participants that could be eligible for their studies. It does a lot of other things, but at the crux of it, this is what it does. And we've been fairly successful. We've got over 12,000 participants in the registry already, and we have about 350 studies. We're also a national model, really, across many institutions, and so we've been pretty good. But I love this slide. I have to share something with you. I know it's digressing a little bit, but I'm sure you like it. So this is our web designer who makes us all look really good. His name is Yoon Kwok, and we as a team sat on this long table for the last 15 months, sort of working on this application. And every time we would go to Yoon and sort of ask him, hey Yoon, this doesn't seem to work, or there's something wrong with this, he would sort of look at his computer, look back at us, again look at his computer, be like, why? and that has stuck with me. We don't ask that question enough. We really don't. And so, okay. And so, why did we decide to rebuild our application? Well, the thing is, we've been really good at getting people into a registry. We have. But what we've not been so good at is getting them into actual research studies. And that's the gap we wanted to solve. We want to move away from getting people into a registry and move towards getting them into actual research studies. And we think the way to do that is through engagement. And we really need to engage people. And by we, I don't mean just us or us at MICHR. I really mean we as a research entity, or even we as an institution. We need to engage people when it comes to research and sort of participating in research. Now, how do we build a tool that supports engagement? I think the answer lies in this. It's all about people. And it's not just about the people for whom we're building the system. It's also about these great folks here who have built the system. I really think every little thing starts with people. And we spent a great deal of time understanding people. So we went and did a lot of interviews, observing people in downtown Ann Arbor, asking them questions about health research, talking to patients at the hospital, really overlooking study teams' shoulders when they are trying to recruit volunteers. I think that's what makes this application really special. And this is the people who worked on this application. I mean, the thing is, there's nothing that's as good as working in a fantastic team. I'm just here standing and representing or being a face of this great application. But it's really these folks sitting here in the purple t-shirts that have really made this possible. I'll quickly introduce you to all of them. I know you've not seen the application yet, but I pretty much promise you that when you do, you'd want to speak to one of them. So the one with the back with the crazy hair and white t-shirt is myself, and it's good you're not seeing any more of me, but but to my right is Mel Gunal, who is here, who's been really the lead technical sort of person on this, and I think he's probably had the most sleepless nights in the last 15 months about this project, but he's been absolutely brilliant. Next to her, to the right, is Dawn Brown, who is our representative of a volunteer or a study team member within the team itself. And she does all the testing for us, and her smile really keeps us going. Next to her is Pam Hayes, who, she's a software developer, but her empathy for the people she's developing for is really great. That's helped tremendously, Pam. Next to her is Emma Hung, who is the project manager, and she's really led this team. And I think along with Mel, I've pretty much made their lives miserable over the last 15 months, but she's taken it so well, thank you. Olivia Chu is also another software developer, and her work with the current application has been so great, and that experience has really translated to what she's done with this new thing. William here in the yellow t-shirt is the newest member of the team, but his sarcasm and drive it has kept us going through the winter. It really has. It's been brilliant. And then Indra Vazay, of course, just calm, smiling, very, very peaceful and nice. So thank you, team. I've missed Yoon here in the picture, but you've met Yoon, So thank you, guys. So, do you want to see it? Yeah. I didn't hear that really well. Do you want to see it? Yay! Because I was going to show it anyway. All right, let's... So this is the new umclinicalstudies.org. And as you can see, the goal has sort of transformed from getting people into a registry to, hey, let's connect people to research studies at UFM. There's a lot of engagement sort of pieces here too, sort of more information about research and really connecting them to health research resources too. Let's first go through the system as a participant or a volunteer would, and then we'll look at the study team's side of things. So let's assume I am a volunteer, and I just I'm here to find some studies. Let's say I'm going to pick. I'm going to say I have diabetes. That's not really true, but and that definitely isn't true. But I've answered just 2 or 3 really easy questions, and here's a list of studies that I could be eligible for. Now, here towards the left, down here, is a lot of options that you can use to narrow these results. So let's just try one of them. Let's say I just wanted to look at studies for Ann Arbor. Now, if you've noticed, the number has dropped quite a bit. But it's really a lot of options to narrow your results. Let's say I like that study. Now, this is how a study details page looks like, which is sort of the page that gives information about each study. And there's some really interesting things about this page. When we were talking to volunteers, we realized that they did not really worry so much about compensation or any of these other things. What they really cared about was purpose, was what was this study trying to achieve? How was it moving the needle when it come in terms of science? And that's what this page reflects. If you see, the blue portion here is basically what the study in really high language is trying to achieve. And that's what ties it to the action that you can take on this page, which is to show interest. Again, the language there is different. It's not, hey, I want to take part in a study. It's, I'm just interested. Just tell me more. Just one step further. And as you go down, there's more and more information about the study, including the study team, some related studies, and confirmation about privacy and confidentiality. But let's say I looked at the study and I thought I was interested. So I would click on that button. Now, at this point, you would need to have an account, not before this. But creating one is pretty simple. It's just answering a few really easy questions. That's it. I don't know if you remember, or some of you who've participated in the registry right now, it's a really long list of questions. We've cut it down to a few basic questions, and we'll ask you more as we go along. But it's really easy to sign up. And you could also sign up for a loved one. But since I have an account, I hope that's the right password. Yes. So when you show interest in a specific study, there's a bunch of general questions that you get asked, and these questions will be auto-populated for you all the time. But then what's more interesting is this little piece here. When we are talking to study teams, we realize that however long our enrollment sort of criteria or forms were, we were never ever going to be able to sort of predict what questions study teams wanted to ask. And so what this new system does, it allows study teams to create their own questions. And I'll show you how when we look at the study team section. But this basically is our questions created by the study teams for this specific study that a participant who's interested in would have to answer. And also, if you as a participant have answered some of these questions before, they would come and populate it for you. So you don't have to keep answering the same question again. So you can see some of them I've answered before. I'm just going to say yes to that. And yes, I really am interested. And then that's it. Now what's happened is that a study team member has been notified about your interest along with your answers. And you have received a set of related studies that you could also be eligible for, based on the one you've just showed interest in. But now that you've logged in, you can also look at some studies that either the system has proposed for you or that some study teams could have recommended. So here are some studies that I could be eligible for, I as a volunteer could be eligible for. And these are studies that include some that have been recommended by actual study team members. So, for example, Tanya has recommended me a study, and I can quickly see why she thinks I'm a good fit for this study. And then I can decide if I want to show interest in it. But if you scroll down further, there are some studies that are being recommended to me by the application itself, based on the information that I've provided to it. And I could, again, look through them and see if I'm interested in any. Now, all of these recommendations are really based on your profile, which looks something like this. And this profile gets populated as you answer more and more screening questionnaires. You don't have to actually come here and do it completely, but you can also come here and set up your profile to represent your health information and also what kind of studies you're interested in. You could also set up things like if you wanted to be notified when new studies become available to you, or if you want to be notified when you get some messages, which really brings me to messages. And I think, actually we think that this is one of the most beautiful features of this new system. It's this ability to communicate with your volunteers right from within the application. You don't have to write any more emails. You don't have to, do anything outside of this application if you don't want to. You can just communicate with them right from here. And so these are my messages that I've received from some study team members. And I can look at some messages and reply back to them, or communicate or engage with these study team members. And this little box here tells me what that study team member is doing and which studies he or she is involved in. But let's see, let's write to Dawn. Easy. And the design of this page is really to make conversations easier, to make it easy for people to talk around this topic of health research, of participating in health research. And that's why it's sort of in this little casual style conversations. But I also wanted to show you how you could go in and add a loved one. So you can always go in and add loved ones, your kids, your parents, whatever, and then you can just use your account to log into their accounts too. So right now I'm logged in as my mother, but you could add anyone and just do it as easily. So we've kept it really simple on the volunteer side of things, just because we want to reduce the barriers that they face before they first make contact with study teams. So very simple, very easy, and just sort of trying to keep them engaged. But let's look at how this application looks from the study team side. And so now I'm signing in. I have my study team member hat on. Wrong password. Right, that's long, right? That's what I'm thinking right now, typing. I think that's long. Why did I do that? Okay, so this is the first page that study team members would see. So study team members only need a level 1 account to sort of get into the application. But they do need to have an IRB approved study to actually add a new study. But here's the page that the study team members would first see when they log in. You have some updates, not just about volunteers, but also about what happened to your study since the last time you logged in. So really quick information dashboard, if you will. And also there's some access to some resources and news and events that are in there. But let's go and try to add a study. So when you try to add a study, you really need an IRB approved study, and you need that checkbox 8-2.6 in eResearch checked. And once you've got that, all you need to do is just put your IRB number in and hit that button. But I don't have an IRB approved study, so I'm just going to try and edit one. Actually, let's edit the one we were looking at right now. So this page is what is used to fill or to create the online posting page that volunteers see. And it's a few questions that, and we've asked the questions so that we hope that study teams can put in something that volunteers or people who don't know much about health research are able to understand and grasp quickly. So these questions are sort of aimed to tease out that kind of information. But then what we're really excited about is this ability to add eligibility criteria. So you can go in and say, I'm looking for people who are fluent in English, or any of these other things that are in there. But if none of these are really what you're looking for, you can also just do other and type in what one of the eligibility criteria is. Let's remove that. And once you've done that, you can always go in and add study team members. Let's add Leah. Again, really easy. we've really tried to remove all kinds of roadblocks that, because we understand how difficult it is being a study team member or a study coordinator, and we've really tried hard to sort of make it as easy as possible for you to do the things you need to do. So this is one of my favorite pages. Let's deactivate this for now. Now this is the page where you as a study team can create those screening questionnaires that participants can answer for that specific study. And we have a bunch of pre-IRB approved questions that you could just use. For example, this is a diabetes study, so let's just pick diabetes, and I don't know. I'm going to add that one. And it's easy. Just select the question you want, plop it in. You can also make that a required question if you want to, so that if a volunteer says he's interested in your study, he has to answer that question. Now, if the questions that we have created don't really, or you need something more than that, you can always create your own question. Again, easy to do. Another question. And then you can add some help text and also select what kind of a question you want it to be. And you have a few choices in there. It could be either a small text box or a big text box, or checkboxes, or any of those choices. But let's say I want it to be a list. And then also add another one. That's it. Your question is created. Again, you can also make it required if you want to. But we really think that this is going to sort of bring up some interesting ways of dealing with participants. The other really cool thing about this application is that you can now say, hey, UM Clinical Studies, recommend me some participants that you have in your registry. And you can say, I want participants that match one of these things. And here is how you would do that. Again, very similar to the eligibility criteria you saw, but you can just say, I don't know, I want people that do not have any mental implants. And then you can say, email Leah or whoever from your study team daily or weekly or monthly every time a new participant matches the search criteria that you've set, which I think is also going to be really helpful. So you don't have to keep coming again and again to the application every day. It'll email you when something has changed or when a new participant matches your search results. We've also created a way in which you can use templates for sort of talking to your participants, so you don't have to like write the same message again. You can just use a template and it'll send the message for you, and I'll show you how that will work. So this participants tab is really an entire application in itself. I don't know if some of you have used UM Clinical Studies as study teams might remember that right now, to look at your participants, you have to go and select a study and then look at participants for those studies. Then come out, select another study, and do the same. But we realized that when study teams are managing participants, they really are managing people. They're not managing studies. And so this is a representation of that. Your participants are listed as people. And they could be eligible for either one or more of your, interested for either one or more of your studies. And you can filter them down by studies if you wish, but it's a very people-focused approach to participants. I don't know, it's weird looking at myself here, but I just showed interest in this particular study, and you can see my answers here. And these are answers to the questions that I had created. And once you've looked at this, you can also go ahead and look at my profile, which is more information about me, or communicate with me right from within the application. Now, I'm going to write a message to myself. But it's easy as that. It's really about sort of managing people. And if you have someone who has shown interest in multiple studies, you don't have to sort of go and look at them separately. You can just look at them once and it'll tell you, hey, John is interested in a few of your studies. And then you can select which studies, answers you want to look at. Also, this really makes it easy for you to find people. Let's say we're looking at Megan, but very easy to find people. Now, once you've looked at a participant, there's a variety of actions that you can perform on this participant. You can just further contact them again, or you can mark them as enrolled or recommend another study, or even thank people. We don't do that enough, I feel. And this makes it really easy for you as a study team to communicate with your participants. This is right from within the application, hit the button, and there'll be a nice thank you message waiting for them. This also, you can also look at your recommendations, but and ask these recommended volunteers if they're interested in any of your studies, which is really cool too. I know we're running out of time a little bit, so in conclusion, I want to show you a little fun video that we just did for this application. Let's see. And then we can break out for some questions. That's me again, I'm sorry.
Everyone is needed to participate in health research. Medical breakthroughs require active participation by a broad spectrum of people from diverse age, racial and ethnic groups. HumanClinicalStudies.org is more than a website. It's a movement that connects people like you and me to health research at the University of Michigan. We have over 12,000 volunteers, and it has been a national model for many institutions across the country. However, we knew we could do better. We realized that we were spending too much time on getting people into a registry, but not enough on getting them into actual clinical trials. The new HumanClinicalStudies.org is not about recruitment, it's about engagement. We spent a lot of time understanding people and their needs, their emotions, their daily lives, their routines. And we did this not just by asking questions, but by observing what they do, how they do it, and what they feel when they do things. Within the news site, participants can find studies themselves by answering a couple of really easy questions. They can then show interest in whatever studies they like and also communicate with study teams right from within the application. The news site completely changes the landscape for study teams. They can not only post their studies online, but also ask study-specific screening questionnaires to participants. They can look at answers that participants have provided and then interact with them from within the system. Each line, each pixel on the new site is there for a reason, and that is to make it easy, useful, and delightful for the people using it. Without health research, there can be no medical breakthroughs, and without volunteer participation, there can be no health research. Volunteer participation is absolutely crucial for better health outcomes. I am interested. Are you?
How's Andrea? She's the one who's really made the video look good. I've just, so it's really hard for us to tell you all about this application in this short frame of time, but I hope I've given you a flavor for it, and I hope to hear some questions you have. Also, please, if you want to know more, please feel free to email us or call us, and we'd be happy to talk to you. Yes?
I love it. And I'm just wondering if I am a volunteer volunteer and I get a message within the system, will I get an email telling me that I have a message in the system?
So I'll repeat the question just in case you've not been able to hear. She's asking if a volunteer gets a message, does he or she also get an email sent? Well, it's up to the volunteer. As a volunteer, you can set if you want an email every day, every week, every month maybe, just to digest. But it's up to you as a volunteer to set what kinds of emails you want to receive.
For studies with multiple sites, like if we're working with Michigan State, and external folks without a UMID be added to the system?
Unfortunately, right now, the way it works is that they need a level 1 account. But I'm sure we can process level 1s if it comes to that. Okay. Sorry? Study specific. Yes.
It seems like most volunteers, participants, come to the project with specific ailments or medical conditions. I'm wondering if you know how effective this program is in recruiting participants who are just interested in being human subjects for trials who do not have specific.
Sure. So I think the question is that how would this program work for people who are just interested in participating in health research but don't have any specific conditions, correct? This website is really not even for only clinical trials, it's really for any health research related studies that are out there. So they could easily, just as easily come here, leave those fields blank and to find studies. And there'll be some studies that they'll totally be eligible for.
So if I'm currently in the registry, what will I get? What do I have to do to be able to be in this new registry? Is it seamless, or do I have to enter more questions?
So if the question is, if a volunteer is in the registry currently, what does he or she have to do to be in the new system? Nothing. It's really just seamless. Oh, you could change your password if you want to. But no, it should be seamless. Yes.
When will the service start?
You know, I was pretty sure that was going to come up.
We've got one minor contingency on the IRB, and it's almost through. Once that's done, it'll be through.
So really, we're hoping for it to be there by the end of May. Yes, please.
When you make the list of questions, are you going to have to submit that list of questions to IRB?
Yes, the list of questions that the application provides are questions that are approved by the IRB, or will be approved by the IRB.
So you're already approved.
The list of questions that are in the application are already approved.
Okay. But if you're making like how you were making your own questions?
If you're making your own questions, you would need to get approval for them beforehand.
And when you look at your responses from volunteers, is there any dates involved? Can you line them up in terms of most recent or oldest?
Yes, definitely. The question is, can you line up the responses by date? Most definitely. You can line up your participants by date. But once a participant has shown interest in a study, they cannot go in and change their answers. But you can message them from within the application and keep communicating with them.
So you don't have to email them, you can message them within the program as long as they sign back into the program, they can see your response.
That's right. Or as long as they've said, email me when I get a message. And that's a cue. More.
All right, thank you, Alap. And I think if you were impressed, please have my team stand up. So thank you a lot for being the face of really a tremendous team, and we think we're really barely scraping the surface of this, and so we hope you'll take this opportunity to go back as it opens up as a service and start to play with it and really advance it from the standpoint of your use. Again, the fundamental challenge that we all hope to address. We do also want to take the opportunity while you're all here, encourage you to attend the Fast Forward Forum, which the Office of Research is hosting on May 21st. We have a former director of the former dean of the medical school, right? Head of internal medicine, Dr. Kelly, will be speaking to us, and he'll be addressing leadership in academic health settings, and we think it'll be a very valuable interaction from that standpoint. So you've seen a lot of presentations today, the challenges. We thank Caleb and Jessica for starting to shed some light on the challenges that we have in accruing subjects into your studies, and we hope that we continue to provide you some tools to be able to more effectively do that. And I know that the team that's around Dr. Larry Ahn, is here as well as the faculty program director for the research recruitment program, and we'll all stay around if there are additional questions that you have regarding this. But thank you for attending, and look forward to the feedback as you begin to use this tool so we can continue to enhance it.